What's up, Home Slices? It's Kiara with Home Slice Adulting, and I am coming to you with my review for Love and Hip Hop Hollywood Season 4, Episode number 9. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get started because this episode was kind of jam-packed with stuff. So first off, we see all these people gathered together to give this little intervention for someone who doesn't think they have a problem. So clearly it's going to be an issue. And so we see, you know, a few people, Nikki, Fizz, Nia, one of the producers of the show, and AD, all having a Q&A session with Christina, who's apparently an intervention specialist. And I'm like, why is Fizz here? Clearly he needs camera time, but whatever. Tiara immediately gets real defensive with Christina when she says, you know, I'm here because your family and friends asked me to be here so that we can talk about your alcohol problem. And Tiara's already not having it. So she walks back to her you know, black SUV, and she's knocking on the door, you know, talking about open it up, unlock it. And I'm like, she about to catch a second case involving an Uber driver, but whatever. And Tiara basically tells Moniece to buzz off. Like, hey, you don't call me, you don't come to check up on me. Why are you pretending that you care about me, basically? And Moniece is like, I don't call to come by because you're an alcoholic. So it's a vicious cycle. But anyways, the producer, who seems to be super genuine and that Tiara seems to respect, convinces her to come back inside. And Tiara is still very defensive when she comes back inside, but she asks for Fizz and Nia to leave because these are people who really don't check up on her, so why do they need to be there? So they leave, they oblige her, and Nia doesn't really seem to have a problem with it. She says she doesn't have a problem with it, but I think her feelings were hurt a little bit. And maybe Fizz is too, because his camera time got cut in half. But whatever. And she says, you know, her image is being ruined, and this is why she doesn't feel like she can put out her music or whatever, which is an excuse. But eventually she comes back in, and Moniece says, you know, I have so many feelings, so I wrote them down. If it's okay that I read it. And Tiara was like, I don't want you to read no letter. And so Moniece starts telling her how she feels, and she says, you know, I've told you that I've had issues with depression, so much so that, you know, there are mornings where I wake up and I don't want to deal with my child. And so this puts things into perspective. I'm thinking that Moniece may have an extended form of postpartum depression. Now, I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist, and I've barely taken any classes in it. But to me, that's kind of what it sounds like. But, yeah, it kind of puts into perspective the whole thing about her not doing anything for her child or whatever. And it makes me feel a little bit bad about the people who continuously talk about her not being there for her kid. But whatever. So what I did notice was that Tiara seemed to be more open and honest with Christina and more closed off with her friends. And you know, Christina told her a little bit about her being a recovering alcoholic, and Christina got emotional saying that, hey, you know, I lost everything in my life due to alcoholism. And Tiara was like, I got stuff to do. I can't be going 90 days. You know, they tried to make me go to rehab, but I said no. And so Christina brought it down to 30, and she's like, are you willing to go for 30 days? And Tiara was like, you know what? Since there are so many people who care about me and so many people who tell me that this is a problem, I will go. And so to me, that's, you know, a little part of herself realizing that she really does have a problem. So one thing that kind of, you know, tugged at my heartstrings was her saying that she couldn't call her mom, and that her mom, you know, couldn't fly with her to the rehab. And later on we find out that she had been sick. But it's just real, it was actually a very touching moment, something that you don't expect from Love and Hip Hop. And so next we see Tiara packing up and getting ready to go to rehab, and Moniece is gonna, you know, dog sit Cherry for her. And yeah, that's the end of that intervention bit. It was very touching. But now back to Ratchet City. I guess we'll talk about Brooke Valentine and Bridget Kelly, two irrelevant people who were taking jabs at each other's irrelevance, so whatever. Brooke Valentine claims they have a love-hate relationship. Don't know where that came from. But apparently Bridget had previously cheated on her boyfriend, James. And Bridget also is laughing at Boobie's music career, which is pretty funny because she doesn't really have that much of a career either. But anyways, at least she's talented. That's her stance. Like, my career may not be popping, but I'm talented. Bridget is worried about how her boyfriend will take her new project with Ray J called That P Is So Good. And she should be worried. And so next we see James and Bridget at a picnic at the same cliff that they always show. And James is listening to it and he's not with it and he's bothered by it. And you can tell that he's not 100% over the past. He keeps bringing up her past infidelity with multiple dudes. But, you know, he wants to support her and he goes to the P Is So Good video shoot. And then we see Bridget performing and she's shooting money out of her vagina. And James is not happy with it and he expresses his concerns to Ray J. And Ray J doesn't really seem to care. And he's like, I'm just trying to keep the money flowing. And it's like, I agree with James that Ray J, the direction that Ray J is taking Bridget in is not the best. And I do think she needs to take another avenue because he's right. He hasn't had a hit since Sexy Can I? So, yeah, but Ray J doesn't care. He's like, you know, I gotta go because my wife is ovulating. So, he kind of dismisses James, but he tells him, oh, we'll talk about it man to man later, whatever. And James is like, I have to find something else for you to do. So he says he's gonna reach out to some people, you know, look for an alternative. And my question is, what does James do? Is he something in the music industry? Where are these connections coming from? Whatever. So next, I guess we'll talk about, we can stay on the topic of Brooke Valentine. And so we see Marcus Black and A1, and A1 being a messy friend and going to Marcus saying, hey, Boobie and Brooke came to, you know, my wife's little release party together and they were booed up. And I asked them if they were having sex and they didn't say yes or no, but it kind of looked like yes. And I was like, A1 is putting 20 on 10. Now I know they edit stuff and they cut stuff out, but that conversation was too abrupt and I do not recall him asking them if they are sleeping together. And I do not recall Brooke or Boobie giving them any indication that that might have been true. So A1 was doing the most. He was putting 20 on 10. So Marcus is like, you know, I've been faithful ever since, you know, she found out about me not being faithful. And I've been giving her space. But I'm gonna go check it out. And indeed he does check it out. And he feels justified in popping up on Boobie and Brooke because she popped up on Marcus and A1. And so he comes and he's like, you guys are all booed up in here and you guys are working and you know, you're here with Playboy. And Boobie is like, this Playboy has a name. And you know, there's tension in the room. Brooke has this look on her face as if she's been caught with her pants down, and she kind of has. And when she was talking to Bridget early in the episode, Bridget was, you know, advising her to cut out the little games that you're playing to try to make Marcus jealous, and stop putting him on ice. But you know, she didn't want to listen. She was too busy playing games. And so Marcus comes in there and he's very cool about it. And then Brooke gets really mad and she's like, you have me looking crazy in these streets and you have people telling me that they're dealing with you and making me look like a fool, and you feel justified in coming in here, and goodbye. You need to get out of here. Goodbye. Me and Boobie are not sleeping together and we never have. Is that what you want to hear? And Marcus is just real cool about it, and Brooke is the irrational one, and I wish she was a little cooler about the situation. But eventually Marcus leaves and he's like, I wish you well with everything that you're doing and blah, 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 blah. And so Brooke is upset and Boobie is, you know, comforting her, and he's like, you know, don't even worry about that dude. And they end up making out. What? Like we didn't already see that coming. But anyways, let's talk about this little picnic at the same park that A1 gave Lyrica's mama a waist trainer at. They're all at this picnic. It's the mamas, Lyrica, A1, Zell, and Alexis. And Zell points out that everyone is involved into this pot of mess because Masika doesn't want to face Alexis to have a conversation. Now, mind you, I feel like Alexis needs to build a bridge and get over it. But for some people, closure is a really big thing. And I guess she feels like she wants to tell Masika about herself. But Masika, being a coward, is not having it. And so as a result, people who were cool or who were supposed to be cool have now fallen out over a beef that don't have nothing to do with them. So Zell says, well, Mr. Ray is having some type of launch party, so I'm going to rent the space next door and I'm going to have an even bigger and better party. And so we see this party, and apparently Mr. Ray is launching some type of PR company called Social Status. The room looks rather empty, and when Moniece shows up, she's like, where is everybody? I hope I'm early. And Mr. Ray is like, yeah, you're early. And she probably wasn't early. There was probably just nobody there and everybody was next door. That's gonna be my guess. But Ray is like, I feel like Masika has been everywhere except for where we are. And basically all of them are taking the heat for something that Masika is, you know, a main part of. And so Moniece agrees with that. And so they hear all this loud noise next door, and it's Lyrica performing. And so apparently it's a Team Sky party, and it's like, so they just found any reason to have a party. What is a Team Sky party? Is it a fan appreciation party? Whatever. And so he shouts out all the people who are there, all of the celebrities like Hazel E and all that kind of stuff. And then he's like, we got Moniece in the building, and we have Marshmallow Man, Mr. Ray. And Mr. Ray gets real upset and starts throwing shoes. And Moniece throws Lyrica under the bus, and he was like, Moniece said that basically Lyrica was the one who told Alexis that Masika's friends were against her or something like that. And Lyrica was like, no, it's not even like that. The whole reason that Lyrica and Moniece fell out was because Moniece didn't like Alexis. And so that's how Lyrica got involved into the whole mess. But Moniece apologized, which is surprising because I feel like Moniece does not apologize. So maybe she really is afraid of Lyrica, y'all. Don't know. But I would bet money on it. But they end up hugging, and Moniece, yeah, and then Alexis apologizes to Mr. Ray. Well, Alexis apologizes to Moniece. Mr. Ray apologizes to Alexis. But Zell decides that he's not going to get in on the apologizing because he's immature. But I'm starting to kind of like Zell. He's very funny to me. But there's certain things about his personality that are just a little overboard for me, and I can't deal with him. But Zell's not here for the kumbaya moment. And they all kind of decide that Masika and Alexis need to get their ish together so that these people who are not directly involved in their beef don't get all mixed up in this one giant beef. So we see next Masika is performing. Yo, can Masika really sing? I've always wondered that, and I've never heard Masika not lip sync or actually sing with no music in it, like do an acapella piece or anything like that. So I think everything is like sound engineering with her voice. Not really sure, but if any of you know of any videos of her actually singing with her real voice that's not been altered, you can put the link down in the comment section. But I do not know of whether or not she can sing. And there's one part in the song that she was singing that sounded like she said, "I'll have his baby." And I'm like, is she talking about Fetty Wap? Is she talking about having Fetty Wap's baby? Not really sure. But Masika is done with her performance, thank goodness. And Alexis and her crew show up, and Masika is very upset, and she, you know, not even really saying any words, tries to climb across the couch on Alexis Sky, and she says, "I'm tired of making these H words famous." And it's like, Masika, you technically aren't famous. So you can't make anybody else famous, but whatever. And Hazel seems surprised that Masika is running. Like, if you're gonna climb couches, you might as well fight, you know, and not run. But Hazel, being messy, tells Alexis, hey, you should go out the back. Go out the back and meet her and meet Masika out front or whatever. And so security is headed to wherever Alexis is going to make sure they don't get in a fight. And then Zell uses this as the perfect opportunity to try to get at Mr. Ray. And here's the problem I have with Zell. He didn't care who he ran over, pushed, knocked down, trying to get to Mr. Ray. And what's funny is, Mr. Ray didn't have to move out of his seat before Zell got pulled back by security. I mean, he had this surprised look on his face. And again, I don't think Mr. Ray is a fighter. I don't think he's about that life. But Zell pushed Lyrica out of the way, and while he was wrestling with security, they pushed they knocked down or knocked over Moniece, and you know, Moniece is mad about that. All the while Masika is outside asking for her cell phone, and she still don't want to talk to Alexis even from across the street. So yeah, Alexis was calm about it, and she's like, all I want to do is talk. And I'm interested to know as if whether or not that's really true, but whatever. Y'all, that's all for this episode. Next time we see the love triangle between AD, Tiffany, and Moniece get even more exacerbated. We see James, Bridget Kelly's boyfriend, connect her with Marcus Black, and that's going to become an issue with Brooke Valentine, because she's going to ask Bridget, have you talked to Marcus? And she's gonna lie to her face. So apparently that's gonna be an issue. But Brooke, just move on, girl. You don't need to move on. And then Hazel E rears her ugly head between Booby and Brooke. So yeah, we'll see that next time. Peace out, home slices.